What's up, guys? Marty Sleva here from San Diego Comic-Con 2013. I'm joined by the big boss, Steve Butts.
That's me.
Hi, how's it going?
It's good, Marty. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. So we saw a lot of Microsoft games, and one of them you got to see was Project Spark, which they revealed at E3, and I don't know, tell us about it.
Yeah, well, Project Spark was a game that I've wanted to keep an eye on ever since I saw it at E3, because it was one game where I felt like, here's a game about creativity. It doesn't necessarily have shooting as a core mechanic, and for me, like, that alone was enough to make it stand out at the show. Not against violence per se. Just want to go on record for that. But this game is it's very creative. It's very expressive. Team Dakota, which is an internal studio at Microsoft, has been working on this game for a couple of years. It's the only thing that this team has done. And it starts off, it seems sort of like just a simple editor. Like you get to shape the land, and you get to add texture and trees and cottages and all these sorts of things to this very flat, featureless terrain. And the tools are very intuitive. You're just basically painting on, and we saw it on the touch apps, and you literally paint with your finger. I want some mountains here, and you just draw mountains, and they spring up. Or you want a river here, so you draw that. But it also works very intuitively with the controller as well. So you can spend a few minutes and basically create a land that has hills and valleys and rivers and tunnels and caves and trees. I mean, anything you want. It's a very, very robust level editor. But from there, you move on to actually creating your own game types. And this is where Project Spark got really interesting for me, because it has this very simple if X, then Y logic built into the game. So you can go into the editor and you say, if I press the Y button, then my character flies. Or if I press the right bumper, then shift me to a first-person camera.
Okay.
So you can actually change the way that the game plays.
Yeah.
And there are all sorts of preloaded templates in there. So if you say, look, I want a generic shooter setup, it will load that for you and make a lot of those decisions for you. And then you can go in and fine-tune it and say, well, I don't want to have crouching, for example.
Okay.
Or I want my character to be able to have a super jump by double-tapping A or something like that. So you can actually make your own inputs.
That's really cool.
And then from there, you can add logic to all the items in the world. So you can say, if I hit the right trigger, my character will throw an apple. And if an apple hits something, an apple will blow up. So you build these multiple lines of code through this very simple visual programming language, and then suddenly you've got a first-person shooter where you're throwing apples at your friend and they're blowing up when you hit them. And that to me is just like amazing.
Yeah, I mean, this sounds really cool, and to me, it has a lot of shades of like Little Big Planet and sound shapes. My one big fear here is, I have no doubt people are going to make really cool games and really cool experiences that I'm going to want to try out, but are those going to be able to rise to the top and actually come to the forefront? Did they say anything about how they're going to kind of cultivate that library?
Yeah, so curation is a problem. It's a couple of different problems, actually. First off, this is kind of a storybook, kid-focused game, just in terms of the visuals, right? And so what you don't want is to create a marketplace where people are able to browse through games for their kids to play, and every level is a giant penis.
My first level is going to be a giant penis. I'm just warning everyone.
No, but that's a real thing. Microsoft says, we know this is a problem. Yeah. So they're going to create two separate groups of levels. Okay. And one of them will be unmoderated, through which you can upload whatever you want, and you can flag things as inoffensive if you see them. Like this level is a giant swastika. Please send this to Microsoft, and they can look at it. So they'll review it and then remove it from the
store or whatever it is.
Whatever it is. But then there's going to be a kid-friendly version, kind of like they have with Netflix. Netflix just for kids, where you're not going to browse the raunchy comedies and the sort of teen sex movies and things like that. But what my big question was, are kids who are interested in playing this game going to be smart enough to use it to its fullest extent?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like what you're saying, actually applying logic to things, is something not a lot of games do. That's a tough thing to kind of find an audience for.
Yeah, and it's a problem for a couple of games. I think Disney's Skylanders Disney's Infinity has the same problem, where the people who are going to be playing the game may not be as into the creative aspects of it. That said, they have sort of a choose-your-own-adventure style creation mechanic in the game. So you load it up, and it says, where do you want to start? And you say, I want to start in the desert. And bam, it builds a desert world for you. And you say, what time does it want to be? And it's like, okay, let's have it be morning. And so it's morning time. Yeah. And then you say, what hero do you want to be? And you say, well, I want to be a fighter. Yeah. And so through these open-ended questions, it guides you through the creation of an actual level. Yeah. And it tells you where the end boss is going to be, how you get there, what you're going to get from him. And along the way, it'll ask you more of these questions to introduce side quests.
Okay,
so it's
that's
sort of
smart.
like
That's
it
really
directs
smart.
players through it. And I feel like after doing that maybe a dozen times, kids will understand, here's how I actually make a level of my own.
Yeah, and maybe we're underestimating kids, because, I mean, Minecraft is like the biggest thing on 360 right
Absolutely.
now, and all my young nieces and nephews play it, and they know a ton more about it than I do, so maybe kids aren't as dumb as we think.
They're not looking for a job, are they, Marty?
Oh, God, I hope not. So did they say at launch Do we know it's a launch game or launch window? Launch Bayview window?
Yeah, they're not being too specific
Okay.
about that, but it's my guess that it's coming out this holiday season.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, Spark looks amazing. And for everything else, Xbox and San Diego Comic-Con, keep it here on IGN.